Englishman who established the first tenuous foothold on the vast continent of America, not far from this beach, called the region the goodliest land under the cope of heaven. That poetic exclamation was evoked by what they saw about them. Broad, gentle rivers, the rich promise of a virgin land. What they could not then see, the great sweep of inland coastal plains with its verdant forests of oak and pine, the undulating rise of the Midlands, the awesome grandeur of mountains in the west, confirm as certainty that profound paean. All that those earliest settlers saw and all that they did not see remain now much as it was then. And there's more. So after 4 centuries, that first description is more definitive than ever before. Twice, Sir Walter Raleigh tried to establish colonies in this coastal region of North Carolina. Twice, those star-crossed endeavors failed. But they left a history and heritage that cannot be supplanted. The story of those settlers who vanished into the wilderness without a trace is told in the outdoor drama, The Lost Colony, each summer on Roanoke Island.
Let the wilderness drive us forth as wanderers across the earth. Scatter our broken bones upon these sands. It shall not kill the purpose that brought us here. And down the centuries that wait ahead, there'll be some whisper of our name, some mention and devotion to the dream that brought us here. And now, into the hand of God, we commend us.
Although North Carolina's past is steeped in history, it's the present that makes the goodliest land so meaningful to so many. And the phrase, variety vacation land, is the current catchline that expresses the full range of exciting things to do and see. Each year, thousands find refreshing solace and solitude on the fragile perimeter of islands or banks, extending from the northeastern corner of the state to its southern peninsula, nearly 300 miles away. The largest island in this chain of Outer Banks is Hatteras. Extending some 70 miles along this island and embracing more than 28,000 acres of beach and dunes is the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. Commercial enterprise is prohibited, leaving a vast, tranquil area of clean, uncluttered beaches and dunes for camping, fishing, and hiking. South of Hatteras is the island of Ocracoke, most remote populated link in this chain of islands. Ocracoke Village snuggles around Silver Lake, once a frequent rendezvous point for such infamous 18th century pirates as Blackbeard, Stede Bonnet, and Calico Jack. On these banks are many fishing villages that have yielded slowly to change over the years. The fascinating history of this region is stored in the memories of sturdy outlanders who trace their lineage to the earliest days of our nation.
I was born here in Avon, North Carolina, in the year 1892, and I spent practically my entire life out here on the island. And I remember most all the storms in my lifetime here. Probably the Great August Storm was the most fierce hurricane in the memory of any of the people living on the banks. Ships, by the scores, beached. Their cargoes was littered up and down the beaches. Now, during my lifetime that I have lived out here, there's been a great community. They all love each other. They're always ready to take their harps off the willow trees and play the great music of Avon, Hatteras, Kinnicky, and Chipmacamaco. And the people are coming down here by the millions to see we people. and they're finding that we're just like all other people in the world, and this is really the Garden of Eden. It is really the Hawaii of the Atlantic.
The most developed part of the Outer Banks is Nag's Head. Overlooking the village is the windswept barren of Jockey Ridge, highest sand dune on the Atlantic and Gulf coasts. A few miles north of Nag's Head is Kill Devil Hills, where the Wright brothers flew the first powered aircraft in 1903. In a region of so much water and solitude, it's natural to find fish and fishermen. The rivers and creeks yield a wide variety of freshwater game fish. From the surf, anglers catch channel bass, flounder, trout, croakers, bluefish, and other fighting game fish. Beyond the surf and the rusted stacks of the shipwrecks that lie in the graveyard of the Atlantic is the warm Gulf Stream. Charter boats based at coastal harbors take the sports fishermen after such worthy opponents as white and blue marlin and king mackerel. Deep sea fishing is a different experience to each person. It can be idyllic and calm as a sleek cruiser sparkling in the sun. Or it can be as full of action as a barroom brawl.
He's a big one.
Down at the big king.
I got him now. I got him. Boy, he's a big one. Look at him. Look at him. Can you gaff him?
Oh, yeah, I'll get him.
Often visitors to eastern North Carolina bring hunting equipment when they come to fish, for the two seasons overlap. Those vast, productive fishing waters and the fields around them are the wintering places for huge flocks of waterfowl.
All right, Sue.
In the reach of woods and farmland throughout the eastern and sandhills regions, white-tailed deer and myriad small game have increased, not diminished in number, since the turn of the century.
In here. Watch it. All right, careful. Catch, Buck. Bring it in. Good boy. Good boy. All right.
The cities and towns of the coastal region of North Carolina are treasure troves of history. On the banks of the Pamlico River, Bath, North Carolina's oldest town, preserves much from the past that is precious. Not far away, the town of Edenton on the Chowan River became a permanent footnote to history when colonial ladies gathered at the home of Mrs. Penelope Barker in 1774 to protest British taxes in what became known as the Edenton Tea Party. Other picturesque and historic towns dot the coast of the Goodliest land. At Morehead City, fleets of charter boats seek big game fish in the Gulf Stream. Near this coastal city is historic Fort Macon. When the wind whines and saws through these old chambers, the echoes of old wars can be heard again. Not far from this old fort is the timeless town of Beaufort. Here, homes and churches fashioned by ship's carpenters more than a century ago grace tree-lined streets. At the confluence of the Trent and Neuse rivers is the town of Newbern, where historic Tryon Palace, once called the most beautiful building in colonial America, stands as a reminder of yesterday's grand dreams. Wilmington is the gateway to the southern resort area. Once the grand dame of all the state's urban areas, Wilmington is North Carolina's largest port city. Here many old homes stand among splendid gardens of azaleas, camellias, dark green holly trees, yaupon, wild orchids, and giant cypress and live oak trees that wear long gray beards of Spanish moss. Permanently moored near the city is the battleship USS North Carolina, now a war memorial and a favorite attraction for young and old. A sound and light drama during summer months reenacts World War II conflicts in which the grand old ship engaged. Virtually within firing range of these guns are two more symbols of the nation's struggle for freedom. Fort Fisher, where the heaviest land-naval battle of the Civil War was fought, and the ruins of Fort Caswell, near the southernmost tip of the state. The traveler to eastern North Carolina will miss much if he doesn't partake of the region's famed culinary delights. Topping the list is eastern North Carolina barbecue, made from tar heel pork, which explorer John Lawson called some of the sweetest meat the world affords. North Carolina barbecue is cooked slow and easy over open coals. In similar rustic surroundings on the coast, a variety of seafood is prepared, including fish, shrimp, oysters, crabs, lobster, and fish muddles. The demarcation line that separates the rolling midlands from the flatlands of the east is irrevocably etched into the face of the Goodliest land. Virtually astride that line is the capital city of Raleigh. Here, historic government buildings, such as the state capitol, link the city to a proud past and contrast sharply with the newer structures, such as the state legislative building, called by many the most beautiful government building in the nation. In many areas of the nation, North Carolina is known as the sports capital of the South. It was in the Midlands on the campuses of such schools as NC State University, the University of North Carolina, Duke, Davidson, and Wake Forest that a reputation for great basketball and gridiron action was born and is kept alive. The place is the Charlotte Motor Speedway, near North Carolina's largest city, and the time is now. These hard-charging heroes of the concrete oval display an audacity for danger that gives them kinship with chariot racers of times long gone. The thunder of the superchargers is also heard at Rockingham, Asheville, Wilkesboro, and in scores of smaller cities of the Midlands. All are not spectator sports in the Midlands of North Carolina. There is much for the traveler who wishes to participate. If such is possible, the game of golf may ultimately become an art form on the dogwood-banked links in the Sandhills Resort Center of Southern Pines and Pinehurst. This is the golfing capital of the Mid-South region, but more than 300 other courses throughout the state also challenge the golfer. The Sandhills area has been growing in fame as a family recreation oasis since the turn of the century. The region also is noted for the many fine animals that are bred and trained on the lush estates for showing and racing. Riding to the hounds is also a popular pastime in the piney woods hunt country surrounding the two villages. Change and action and excitement have indeed swept the midsection of North Carolina, but it has not swept aside the commitment to the preservation of those good things from our past. For example, in the modern city of Winston-Salem, growth has not preempted the village of Old Salem. Founded by Moravians in 1766, Old Salem today reflects the character and color of yesteryear. Not far from the city of Winston-Salem, another precious heritage is preserved. This music predates the oldest settlement in the mountains beyond the foothills of this little community of Union Grove. Each year at Easter time, folk music purists from the Appalachian highlands come here to the Old-Time Fiddlers Convention to show off their skills before an audience of thousands. They get together at Asheville in late summer for more old-time picking and singing and clog dancing, and at the State Fair Folk Festival in Raleigh. Mournful and sad, or lilting and lyrical, this old-time music and these old-time mountain minstrels touch nerve endings and bridge not only the generation gap, but keep alive the link between all generations. The permanent home of this soul-stirring music is the North Carolina High Country. The Blue Ridge and Great Smoky Mountains. Awesome in their grandeur, inspiring in their beauty, they evoke powerful emotions among those who are sensitive to the interrelationships between man and nature.
The real history of this land is a history of solitude, of the wilderness and the eternal earth. It is the history of millions of men living and dying alone in the wilderness, who have listened to the earth and know her million tongues.
The words are those of Thomas Wolfe, a native son of these Blue Ridge and Great Smoky Mountains, a troubled poet, a mountain man inspired by a peculiar nostalgia that invades the souls of those who fall under the spell of these majestic peaks. Despite the eloquence of native sons, it was an outsider who gave this part of the Goodliest land a lasting nomenclature. In 1871, author Christian Reed visited here and named this verdant virgin the Land of the Sky. To enjoy an uninterrupted view of the vastness of the Blue Ridge and Great Smoky Mountains, take a motor trip along the Blue Ridge Parkway. This backbone of the Great Southern Appalachian region enters North Carolina at its northwestern boundary and soars over the peaks to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. The parkway is designed especially for leisurely enjoyment of the scenic wonders along the way. Commercial vehicles are not permitted, and commercial enterprise is prohibited from the road's right-of-way. The western terminal of the Blue Ridge Parkway is the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, an area of almost 800 square miles containing some of the wildest highlands in eastern America and a camper's paradise. Along the parkway and along other mountain highways and byways, there is a dazzling array of visual experiences. Mount Mitchell, the highest peak in eastern America. Grandfather Mountain. For 1,000,000 years, it has raised its craggy face toward infinity. Chimney Rock, a unique appendage of granite. Lake Lure in Hickory Nut Gorge, the passageway through which DeSoto is believed to have marched. And across the hills, beautiful Fontana Lake. Blowing Rock, where strange wind currents make this the only place on Earth where the snow falls upside down. Awesome Linville Gorge, where a covenant between government and nature assures that our wilderness heritage shall remain virgin. Little Switzerland, a picturesque village that bears startling resemblances to alpine villages of Europe. The cultural metropolis of the Land of the Sky is Asheville. Asheville is the home of Biltmore House, the unbelievable structure built by George Vanderbilt, whose goal was to raise a mansion on the most beautiful spot in the world. It's also the home of Stuart Nye's silversmiths, where fine artisans fashion things of beauty out of silver and tin plate. Throughout the Goodliest land, the different seasons of the year are distinct and definite. But nowhere do they exert a more profound influence than here in the land of the sky. On the high peaks, spring softens the grip of winter, and the clear, cold streams become happy, chuckling freshets, plunging and tumbling on their way to the sea. In late spring and early summer, hundreds of different wildflowers and blooming plants burst forth with colors like Roman candles. And in many areas, flowering rhododendrons spread an avalanche of color over the slopes. But it's in autumn that these slopes blaze the brightest. The land of the sky is more than a sightseer's paradise, though. It's a place where a wide variety of activities awaken every sense. At the Cherokee Indian Reservation, the traveler can trade with direct descendants of one of the largest tribes of Indians in southeastern America. An outdoor drama, Unto These Hills, relates the stirring saga of the Cherokee's struggle to retain his homeland.
West, out of the Great Smokings, from village after village, marched 17,000 men, women, and children along the Trail of Tears from North Carolina to Oklahoma.
Across the hills at Boone, another outdoor drama, Horn in the West, tells of the settlement of this vast mountainous region. Many of the 300 golf courses in North Carolina are located in the land of the sky. Golf on these cool highland courses, rimmed by scenic mountains, is without peer during spring and summer. In the thousands of miles of streams in these highlands, trout, ranging from small brookies to lunker-sized browns, battle with anglers. The lower mountain streams and lakes abound in largemouth and smallmouth bass, brim, crappie, walleye, and white bass. There's good hunting here in the rugged highlands, too. Upland birds and other small game, black bear, deer, and in the more remote areas, Russian boar. At Boone, youngsters will thrill to a ride on a narrow-gauge, steam-powered train that winds and twines along a scenic route. Once, winter intensified the isolation of the mountains. But today, at fashionable resorts throughout the high country, winter is a time to ski. Often natural snowfall on these slopes equals or exceeds the snowfall of New England. And modern snowmaking machines help to keep the slopes in fine shape from December to March. Beautiful scenery, exciting things to do, these are the hallmarks of the high country. But the traveler who would gain an intimate acquaintance with this unique land must meet the people of the mountains. The sturdy, self-sufficient folk who live by the code that you do for yourself or do without. People who have created an art form with homemade clay bowls, gourd dippers, and patchwork quilts. People like Jack Guy and his friends, who create fascinating little toys that intrigue young and old alike. People like Ed Presnell, who, with a pocket knife and simple hand tools, can make a dulcimer, the ancient stringed musical instrument that expresses the sadness of death or the joy of life. Awesome mountains, shrouded in mist. Gentle rolling midlands that link east and west. A historic coastal region of sea and sounds. A unique land to see and to enjoy. A retreat from the commonplace. A permanent frame of reference for our nation and ourselves. This is North Carolina, the goodliest land under the cope of heaven.